crispy critters.
Your hand! No! Hang on, I got you! Oh, well, we'll be fine, my love. We've handled worse. Pull yourself together. You have to follow this path first. You need to stabilize yourself. The Voskhod module doesn't help with that anymore. But that's all the better for us, right? Don't worry, honey. Everything will be wonderful. Find somewhere a bit quieter. I'll explain everything then. There. The important thing is that you listen to me and everything will be okay. I'm a pro here.
Улыбайтесь, но не шевелитесь, пока я считаю до 9.
You know, we never slept much, 4 or 5 hours at the most. First studying, then the war, and then the endless Argentum training. Not to mention after our wedding. And we always felt fine. Sechenov and Zaharov didn't see it immediately. But it's all about genes. ADRB1 is responsible for how much sleep a person really needs. The Voskhod device was developed specifically for people like us to make the time needed for productive sleep even shorter. And that's precisely who Dr. Filatova studied at the Academy of Consequences. Time here flows differently. It's hard to compare with reality. The hands of the clock seem to freeze, but the clock itself can be carried away, far away, as if that were possible. As long as you move in a certain direction, things go on happening in the real world. But if you stand still, then nothing happens at all. Pay it no mind. What's important is that our bodies are lying in Dr. Sechenov's office. Attention, Deja Vu Test Alpha. Sorry. So there are a few of these people. People with the DEC2 gene mutation were eligible for the experiment. But that wasn't all they needed. They needed the ADRB1 mutation. Geniuses often sleep very little. Lomonosov, Tesla, Edison, Da Vinci, many practice polyphasic sleep. Dr. Sechenov believed that the way to Limbo was the brightest flash during sleep, just before waking. He decided that when he saved me after the Bulgaria incident. The surgery took 16 hours. Sechenov found me in Limbo using polymeric readers and the Spark module. He installed a frequency anchor to enter this world. Technically, Limbo isn't sleep or death, but somewhere in between. must be critters, Nichayev. You don't seem like yourself at all. Rude and stubborn as a ram, and you're a monster yourself. Are we already climbing up? Ah, still at the end of your rapid slide. Got it. Sorry, I got riled up too soon. By the way, did you know that society loves me? Yes, for 3 years I silently observed the world through the eyes of 2 cold robots while they guarded the doctor and sometimes put on shows. I even liked it. True, Sechenov didn't create the twins for ballet. Their military functionalities are hypertrophied, and their speech algorithms are controlled entirely by a simple AI. They're not encoded by my polymeric essence. Dr. Sechenov really did save my life, but he could only guess at how much. He checked my readings, even talked to me kindly, but more often than not, I was simply his shadow. Then one day, I was given the task of meeting Major Nichayev and giving him an electronic key. You. If I'd had a human body, my throat would have been ripped out. I sobbed and screamed with all my might. Such was my soul yearning for you. But from the machine just came a detached, "Here is your vehicle activation code, Comrade Major." Oh, I'm sorry. Soon, I was able to separate myself from the twins. Dr. Sechenov noticed it almost instantly. But the collective breach had reached Chelame, and he no longer had time to deal with it. He just muttered something to Stockhausen in surprise. When we went to the VDNH, I quickly realized I could influence the polymeric waves. You could even see me for a flash. You won't remember, but when Cheriton Radionovich first plunged you into Limbo, I helped you find the way out. And then again. Sadly, we ran out of time, and Mikhail was swallowed up by the array. But I managed to block Cheriton Radionovich at the Academy of Consequences. But my mother intervened. That's what Granny Zena always did. Lives its own life and doesn't expect new arrivals. We're just guests here, but more and more of us are finding ourselves in this place. See, until the Collective 2.0 is launched, everyone who has contact with Dr. Sechenov's array can get here. Technically. Or have I already told you? Molotov, Stockhausen. And now, with Charles's array mixing with Sechenov's Jellyman, those criminals from whom the first prototype of the array was created can be in Limbo. Charles, as I said. The beta connectors, the rings, were created for us, the Nichayev family, to guard Sechenov when the Collective 2.0 launched. That's what I think. Everyone who's undergone polymerization starts getting information about all members of the network. That's not bad, though it's unpredictable. The issue isn't with Sechenov, as Petrov or Filatova feared, but with people learning a lot of new things about each other. They'll be in plain sight, but not us, when we find the rings, of course. They contain some limbo matter, or maybe it's better to say antimatter. The connectors isolate the carrier from the collective system search area, and I'm grateful to Dr. Sechenov for saving Me? I don't know what to call this state, but I'm me. And I want to vanish from the whole world. It's awful having someone powerful constantly standing over you, controlling your every move. As you know, Granny Xena is my mother. Remember? Did I tell you, or did she? Anyway, Zinaida Petrovna is one of the few who figured out Dr. Sechenov's true plans. Unfortunately, as it often goes, she also views everything through the lens of her own ego, so she's unhappy. You probably saw the computer device in her flying house. And you probably saw the strange little hut on chicken legs. Hold on, someone's coming. Dr. Sechenov calculated this too. I don't think he was pleased to part with his life, but having found himself part of the array, he became its sole owner. The same can't be said for Professor Zakharov. Charles, you said? Yes, Charles is more accurate. We don't know how many personalities were in this first prototype of the array, or how influential Cheriton Radionovich is among them. This relates to Petrov too, by the way. Along with Dr. Filatova, either they were both mistaken or they didn't want to know the truth and stubbornly stuck to their guns. I was there. Sechenov said what he said, not what Victor thought he said. The truth didn't really suit Victor. He didn't know it, but he was framed too. Stockhausen was secretly in love with Dr. Filatova. Well, to the extent that such a man could truly feel love. The roboticist might have come to his senses, but Mikhail, as we know, sent the poor bastard to the Vavilov complex. He would have been better off dead. Well, we know nothing can be lost at Facility 3826. I mean, the hut, right? Right. Anyway, limbo matter can't stabilize under Earth's conditions. The fabric is particulate, like an invisible gas. Or that's how I imagine it. It stretches, and then it contracts. That's why we need all these space flights and missions beyond the planet. Sechenov needs a different kind of physics. He doesn't believe in the old one. Resorts on Venus and greenhouses on Mars are left in the books of his beloved Jules Verne.
I shot him. I didn't mean to. I swear.
Technically, you shot, but it was actually Cheriton Radionovich.
Holy shit, Charles.
Yes, more accurately. You probably haven't seen it, but Charles has seized control of the array, the Jellyman. Though killing Dr. Sechenov personally was a fatal mistake.
That scumbag killed him?
Technically, yes, but we already know that everything the array touches becomes part of it. Or did I not tell you that yet? Huh?
Katya! Hey!
You've covered a lot of ground, Pioneer Nechayev.
They're shards of someone else's memory. You won't understand how it works. Sounds pedestrian, but I'm waiting for you. I thought you might get lost.
Where did you come from?
Yes. I've always been nearby. You may say, how on earth? Zakharov's dead. But did he put a module in my stupid head?
Your memory will start coming back even faster. You may even find whole pieces of it.
Huh. How would I find them?
Look for shells. It's just like chirpers. You put them to your ear and the ocean sings to you. I don't know. It's your perception, not mine. For me, it was birds that brought me letters with notes from the past. There was a lot in them. School, the battle.
There. That looks like the first piece of my memory.
Looks like it. Curious.
Let's listen.
Damn unicorn almost squashed my wife, bastard. You? Hey, what's wrong? Why are you standing there like a statue? It can't see you. You're under its foot.
I don't know. I lost myself for a second there. What happened? Shit!
Head to the shelter, now! Bastards, open fire! Squad, avoid its line of sight! Lesna, what's his status?
He's unconscious! Hang on, my love, just hang on!
Lesna, get back! Drag him to the other side! The robot is looking for you! Send in the Karakurs, now!
hasn't been launched yet. The soldiers are trying to figure out what happened, but of course they haven't found Sechenov's body. I'm sure everything will be fine soon. Dr. Sechenov won't let this Charles win. Not in his own array, and certainly not in Limbo.
If the Jelly Man swallowed Dr. Sechenov's body, then Sechenov should also be around here.
Not exactly, but it'll be easier for Dr. Sechenov to get here. He looked into Limbo through the waves of my beacons, but he doesn't need a medium now, and he'll focus on us soon, once he deals with Charles.
Yeah, but Willie, I remember now. He was talking to me in Limbo, something like, "You're a warrior of science, take up your sword of knowledge and strike at the very heart of the capitalist bureaucracy," of some nonsense.
Nonsense? Hardly. Of course, warrior of science is pushing it with your crispy crittering, but things happen for a reason with Sechenov.
I'll try to swear less.
That would be great, Michaev. Don't you worry. As a scientist, Sechenov did everything he could for you. But as a person, he didn't notice your mental shift at all. He was surprised by your new behavior patterns. But what could he do? You were alive and well, even though you were forced to forget me. You know, neuroscientists have struggled with this riddle for many years, and the balance between the mind and animal instincts has still not been determined. But we have Limbo! A colorful guide to Sergei Nechaev's mind palace. However, we should count on autopilot. Oh yeah! Technically, you had an incident like the Phineas Gage case. It was 1848 in Vermont. An iron rod was driven through his head. Phineas Gage survived, but his personality changed. He started swearing and gambling. Just kidding. But before the incident, he was known as a decent and reliable person. And after, he became impulsive and uncontrollable, foul-mouthed and disrespectful. Remind you of anyone? And I hope this autopilot takes us to another interesting thing. Warrior of science. Is that what the doctor said? You see, I'm more of a camera than an analyzer to him. I learned how to identify the basics here, but I can't decipher this world. Besides, it feels like I'm being restricted. That's why we need beta connectors. But a warrior of science, and at the heart of the capitalist bureaucracy. Nothing is literal in Limbo, but what did Sechenov mean? Where and when did he see you like this?
I never thought of that! button! Just getting started. So what's with Cheriton? His cat is clearly following us.
Actually, it's more likely that Cheriton Radionovich's mind has been held hostage all these years by this creature. And there's the question of who exactly Sechenov was communicating with.
Similar feces. That's not what I asked.
What?
Isn't it all the same shit, Katya? Charles, Sechenov, all they do is manipulate people.
Did you not hear me, or did I not tell you yet? No, Sechenov saved us. How you and I are alive, it's just a new frontier of science. I don't consider myself a monster. You either. But the part of the brain the neuropolymer replaces should already be filled with something.
Easy. All right, agreed. I don't know or remember much. Let's talk when we're out of here, okay?
Hey, Katya, what's wrong with you? Is that your mother? What are you doing, you silly thing? She's worried about you. She's your mom. And you stabbed her in the back. That's screwed up. You should stop blustering and go talk to your mom alone. Comrade Major! Comrade Major! Allow me to file a complaint against your daughter. She refuses to bathe. She doesn't want to wash the spots off her face. It's traumatizing to my delicate natural aesthetics.
Delicate aesthetic nature. Incidentally, Comrade Sergeant, your face isn't any better.
What do you mean? I'm simply dashing. I was king of the hill. Almost. Come on, Fairy Dragonfly. Go talk to your mom. Don't upset her. Go, Katya. Take a breath.
Winning, but soon you'll have to face the most difficult opponent.
Hey, Fairy Dragonfly, what am I winning? I'm just climbing step after step. What opponent?
I haven't heard that name in ages. Climbing step by step is a good approach to the matter, but you're not climbing physically. Your mind is returning to its original state.
Well, to childhood, no thanks. I was dumb and stubborn.
That's definitely still the case. No, not to childhood. I'll try to open the way before you start babbling and asking for a nipple.
Feisty, I like it. Finally not honey or love. Who will I have to face?
Well, yourself. Like I said.
Easy now. Easy.
you. I lost the ring.
Nechayev, how did you do that? Again?
Hush, Dragonfly. Just kidding.
Don't push it, you. Hang on a sec. It seems I've lost mine too.
Wait, what?
What's going on here? Nechayevs? Why is it when something strange happens, it's always you two? We're at your wedding, and you're messing around again.
Not at all. Won't do that again, Comrade Major.
I'm not a Nechayeva yet, Comrade Major.
Enough talking. To the wedding hall. March!
Yes, Comrade Major.
That's right. And I'm not Major Kuznetsov today. I'm Alexander Ivanovich. Let me chill at my gang's wedding. Sir! Oh, this'll be fun.
Gives a fuck. How can Granny Xena get in here?
From a copy of Dr. Sechenov's data. She managed to find out a lot. She's the head of comms, after all.
So she knows about Atomic Heart.
You should focus on what's ahead. Well, not just yourself, of course. As I said, in addition to the creatures you already have to fight, new players have appeared here who may be looking for you. A little context, okay? When my consciousness was plunged into limbo as I lay dying on the operating table, Dr. Sechenov realized it wasn't just a brain state, but a whole new world, too. He used captured criminals from Bulgaria to pinpoint my position, using polymeric radiation as beacons. The bastard who blew us up, or rather what was left of him, was also part of the experiments. Dr. Sechenov didn't see what it looked like, but to install the beacons, he had to tear their consciousness to shreds. Who knows what might have been left? And consider your subconscious too, your fears, shame, and guilt. Technically, it could take any form. One thing is clear. This is the final frontier you have to overcome so you can be yourself again. I think Cheriton Radionovich also suspected something of the like when he was alive. Basically, he invented the Voskhod as a mechanical alternative to the spark, which lets the Argentum group operate a glove. It also regulates the soldiers' emotions during battle, but the Voskhod has a hidden function, a dopamine injector, that's necessary to support soldiers in critical situations, making them go berserk. Dr. Sechenov knew about it, of course, and didn't want to install the Voskhod on you. But he had no choice. When that part of your brain was knocked out of your head, you went crazy and needed an emotion suppressor, and the spark module didn't take root. I don't think Dr. Sechenov was thinking about Limbo when the Voskhod was created. But Cheriton Radionovich, even if he didn't know for certain, suspected this world existed. Otherwise, Charles wouldn't have used you at the VDNH. As I said, each point here in Limbo has many different possibilities. If you know where to start, you can draw a map of events and figure out which path to take in reality. That's how I think of it. Although there are no portals here. You won't be able to jump through multiverses, but you can observe and calculate. For example, what would have happened if you hadn't gone to Sechenov at Chelome, but had instead gone to drown your sorrows or ended up in another complex? They say the Mendeleev serves great drinks. When everything settles down, we should go relax at the Lokhaya Hotel. Get us a day off anyway. I feel so weird out of my uniform and into a dress. How long has it been since I've worn one?
Let all the Vorobyovigori see what a beautiful fiancé I have.
Nichayev, are you proposing to me?
You and I are written in the stars. Whether I propose or not, it's all the same. We'll walk hand in hand until the end of time. Or does that not suit you?
Are you joking, Comrade Second Lieutenant?
Not at all. What kind of joke would that be? Hey, comrade, can my bride and I have 2 plum-beer ice creams? Katya, I'm an old soldier and I don't know the words of love. But let me confess, when you laugh, my heart sings. You make me happy. You're my own personal general.
What's gotten into you?
Ekaterina Pavlovna, will you marry me?
Sergei!
Now, where did I put that ring? Oh, man.
Well, this is the last safe area. Soon all your memories will come screeching back. Shame for what you don't remember, the fear of consequences, you'll have to deal with those emotions. Technically, it's even useful as a preventative measure, although it's not always pleasant. Adults come up against this from time to time.
You're treating me like a kid.
You'll get out and find yourself in Chelome. We're close now. Act according to the situation. The important thing is that you find the rings.
Yeah.
I'm serious, Sergei. Deal?
Seems I even remember how pretty you are when you're angry.
Stop it, I swear.
Katya, deal. Just one last thing. Forgive me. In Bulgaria, I should have gotten you out alive. Kuznetsov. Not two corpses.
I forgive you. The real world is waiting, Sergey. We need those beta connectors.
You got here, P3. Is your brain really so weak that it can't even produce realism?
Buzz off! Buzz off!
Let's go. Turn the clock quick.
Лучшая девушка в СССР.
О, спасибо, дамте еще.
The audience applauds and applauds. I won't go down that easily.
You're still moving. I'd be down for the count after that.
You're digging your own grave.
I'm just getting started.
You're not fantastic. Just one coin? You got nothing, you ragamuffin? Poor birdie.
That's how you like it, huh?
Run, Sergey, run!
I'll pinch you forever, P3, but you won't wake up. It's all about corn. What's good for the goose, P3? You're digging your own grave.
Bullseye!
see the janitor running ahead of us? We're aiming for him. Who's always wins, douche canoe? Not gonna get us. Don't just escalate the situation.
I'm just getting started.
Numbers and through. Just one coin? You got nothing, you ragamuffin. You can do it, you can't do it. Are you busting my balls?
Are you asking for more?
The lead gander. My precious. Precious. Is that run in the family? Hey, Carol, you butthole. Well, are you busting my balls?
How do you like that, gearhead?
Worthy reward. You see the janitor running ahead of us? We're aiming for him. Well, okay.
Sorry, buddy. Same old shit.
I'm the cruiser started, bastard.
That's how you like it, huh?
Are you fucking crazy?
Nailed it.
I won't go down that easily.
Sorry, buddy. Same old shit.
You're digging your own grave.
Keep your distance.
Don't fuck with me.
Nailed it. Still...
Goose hunting season's in full swing! Go get 'em, love!
The birds are flocking together again. A sad fate awaits you.
Scram!
Wearing a lot. I'd even say in flight without incident. Are you upset, man? Don't be upset, man. That's all you're upset. Who's always wins, those canoe. Run, the child, run.
Don't listen to their gaggling! Pluck 'em!
What do a good schedule for you? For a pilot who's a starless sky? Whoa, what?
Can't keep up? Are your legs too short?
Made a tree cave? Gonna break my big off.
Goose hunting season's in full swing! Go get 'em, love!
I really got myself in a pickle.
Anything but this!
I'll catch you.
Get out of here!
I think wonderful and terrible, but I'm good.
Head on a swivel, they're everywhere!
Don't mess with me, asshole.
What's good with a
Don't listen to their gaggling! Pluck 'em!
bullet is a fool. I never will check that one out.
You've got
Your
short
brother
legs, you pig.
Looks like goose hunting season's in full swing! Go get 'em, love!
I'm ready to do that. Are you at least super genius? I'm at least and you killed already. You know the cherry bit to the bottle. Through the cable. Do it all right now. Let's put it go. I think you forever be free, but you always
Shut up already.
I'm a start for you next I am. Cherry bit to the bottle. I'm a goose starless sky.
What chatterboxes!
Drop me in the water. If I was the objective, the more fun the process.
What are you squawking at?
4 times we'll reach it.
Just hang on, Katya, okay? We'll get through this together. Now the rings.
No!